Hey there, Kipsters. Mr. Piazzi here, and we're looking at objectives 3B.79. That's slope-intercept form, a very special way of writing an equation. We're going to have three different skills that are all connected to slope-intercept form. The first one is, how do you identify the slope and the y-intercept when you have an equation in that form? And when we say slope-intercept form, it's always going to be in this form of y equals mx plus b. Y equals mx plus b. And the reason it's valuable when it's in this form is that if you're looking at the equation, you know that the coefficient of x, the number in front of the x, is the slope, and you know that the constant, the number by itself, is the y-intercept. And those two pieces of information are enough to graph the line. So, starting with these examples, equation A, y equals negative 2x plus 3. I can see that the coefficient of x is negative 2, that's m, and that the constant is 3, that's b. So what that's telling us is the slope of this line is negative 2, and when I graph it, I know that it's going to actually be negative 2 over 1, and the y-intercept is 3. And at this point, that's all I'm asking for, is to identify the slope and the y-intercept. Looking at b, y equals x minus 4, I definitely see the constant, which, after I kill subtraction, is negative 4. So I can see that b, the y-intercept, is negative 4. I'm having trouble seeing what the coefficient is because it's not there. Whenever I don't see a coefficient, I know it really means 1 times x. So the coefficient and the slope is really just 1. Last example that I'm going to do is c, y equals 1/2 x. Again, there's something missing. I don't see my b this time. I do see what the coefficient is, which is 1/2. So let me divide these so they don't get mixed up. The slope of that line is definitely going to be 1/2, a rise of 1 and a run of 2. But the y-intercept I don't see. Whenever I don't see a y-intercept, whenever I don't see the constant, it's not 1, because if I add 1, that will change it. It's actually 0, because if I add 0, that doesn't change it. So the y-intercept in that case is 0. The line is going to start from the origin. I'd like you to stop the video here, and please find the slope and y-intercept for these two equations, D and E. Press play when you're ready to check your answer. Okay, you've tried D and E, so it's time to check. The slope of this first equation is negative 2/3, so m is negative 2 over 3. Negative 2 over 3. And the y-intercept, after you kill subtraction, really is negative 1. I hope you got those right. Next, looking at equation E, y equals 6x plus 1. The coefficient is 6, so the slope really is 6. And if you wanted to, that's the same as 6 over 1, with a rise of 6 and a run of 1. And the y-intercept is just 1, positive 1. So at this point, we've practiced identifying the slope and the y-intercept if I give you an equation, but the reason we do that is so that you can graph the equation. So in this next slide, I'm going to give you an equation, and we're going to graph it by first doing what we did in the last slide, which is identifying the slope and the y-intercept. So I'm just going to show you them all up front because you're going to need to see the graph. So looking at A, I can see that if y equals mx plus b, the slope is negative 4. So I'm going to identify the slope first, which is negative 4 over 1. It doesn't change it if I put it over 1. The y-intercept is positive 3. And the reason I cared about those two pieces of information is that's enough to graph this line. If I know the y-intercept is 3, I'll start from my y-intercept of 3. So this is my x-axis, this is my y-axis. The y-intercept of 3 starts right there. And that's where I start the line, at y equals 3. Next, I need to build a line with a slope of negative 4 over 1. So starting here, I'm going to go down 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then go over 1, 1, and that's the next point in my line. If I connect those, my line is not perfect, looks like this. And so this line has the equation y equals negative 4x plus 3. That's the first one. Next one, y equals 2x minus 3. The very first step is to identify the slope and the y-intercept. The slope I can see is 2, which is really 2 over 1. And the y-intercept I see is negative 3 after I kill subtraction. So again, my y-intercept is negative 3. So, starting first with my y-intercept, I'll do this one in blue. I need to start at a y-intercept of negative 3. That's right here. Excuse me. Then I need to build a line with a slope of positive 2 over 1. So I'm going to go up 2 and then over 1. Could do it again going up 2 and over 1. And I would have these points to connect so that I have a line that looks like this. And so I've graphed the line with a y-intercept of negative 3 and a slope of 2 over 1. Last one I'm going to do before I ask you to do D&E as guided practice. I see y equals 2/3 x. This is one of those where you don't see the y-intercept. So I know what the slope is. It's 2 over 3. But I can't see what the y-intercept is. So it's really a secret plus 0. And so my y-intercept here is 0. And now I'm ready to graph it. I'll do this one in black. Starting with a y-intercept of 0, that's right at the origin in the middle. And I've started with my y-intercept. Next, I need to build a line with a slope of 2 over 3. That means from here, I'll have a rise of 2, 1, 2, and then a run of 3, 1, 2, 3, and I have my second point. I could do it again, a rise of 2, 1, 2, and a run of 3, 1, 2, 3, and I have my third point. Connecting these dots, computer's a little slow. I have a line with the equation y equals 2/3 x plus 0, or just y equals 2/3 x. So this is C, this is A, and this is B. I'd like you to stop the video here and graph D and E. You can just sketch them on your paper by first identifying what is the slope in the y-intercept for each equation, what is the slope in the y-intercept for each equation, and then by actually sketching it on your paper. Press play when you're ready to check your answer for the slope and the y-intercept, and you've sketched them on your paper. Okay, you've tried D and E, so now it's time to check. The slope of D is positive 1/2. The y-intercept is 1. The slope of E is 3, which is really 3 over 1. And the y-intercept is, after you kill subtraction, negative 5. In red, I'll graph D first. You should have started with a y-intercept of 1. That's right here. And then built a line with a slope of 1/2. That means a rise of 1, a run of 2. That's right there. That is your line for D. I'll graph E in green, starting with the y-intercept of negative 5. My y-axis is here, so negative 5 means 1, 2, 3, 4, right there is negative 5. I have my starting point, and then I need to graph a line with a slope of 3 over 1. So that means a rise of 3, 1, 2, 3, a run of 1, and that's my second point. And now I can connect these to make line E. I hope that's what your lines look like. Okay. Now it's a chance to put all these skills together, not by graphing any more equations, but by writing the equation if I give you the graph. So in these examples, I'm giving you a graph, and you need to write the equation. I'm going to do 14 and 15, then I'm going to ask you to do 17 and 18. So looking at 14, if I want to write the equation, I know that I need to know the slope and the y-intercept of the line, and then I just put those things together because I know that slope-intercept form just combines those pieces of information, y equals mx plus b. So if I can find the slope and the y-intercept, I can write the equation of the line. So starting with this line, I see that the y-intercept pretty clearly starts at positive 1. So my y-intercept is 1. It's a little trickier to see, but I see a couple usable points I could use here to find the slope. I'll use that second point. And if I go there, I have a rise of 1 to negative 3, a rise of negative 3, a run of 3, 1, 2, 3. And so my slope is negative 3 over positive 3, which just simplifies to negative 1. And so I have a y-intercept of 1, a slope of negative 1, and now I just need to put this piece of information together. That means y equals negative 1x, because the slope is negative 1, plus 1, because the y-intercept is 1. And that's my equation. Y equals negative 1x plus 1. One big note I'll make is this could also be the same as y equals negative x plus 1. You might not see negative 1x, but either of those are correct. Let's see, I should be able to move this just to double check. Yep, y equals negative x plus 1. Last one I'll do, 15. Again, I want to find the slope and the y-intercept of the line, and then I should be able to write the equation for it. So starting with the y-intercept, I have my y-axis here. The y-intercept is right there, which is at negative 2, so my y-intercept is negative 2. The slope, going from here to here, I can see has a rise of 1 and a run of 2. So that's 1, rise of 1, a run of 2, 2, the slope is 1/2. So if I put those things together, that means y equals m, that's 1/2, x, plus b, which would be plus negative 2. And I have y equals 1/2 x plus negative 2. I know that that's the same as y equals 1/2 x minus 2. Because if you kill subtraction, they really are the same thing. So either y equals 1/2 x plus negative 2, or y equals 1/2 x minus 2 would be the right answer. Let's see what the worksheet actually said. Y equals 1/2 x minus 2. But again, either one would be correct. Okay, I'd like you to find the equations for line 17 and lines 18. In order to give you a little help, I'll help you find usable points, but then after that, it's all on you. You can use usable points from right here to right here for the graph in 17. And for the graph in 18, you can use the usable point from right here to right here. Stop the video here, press play when you've written the equations for both 17 and 18 and are ready to check your answer. Okay, you've tried, so now it's time to check. The slope and y-intercept is what you need for equation 17 for this line. Starting with the y-intercept, which is one of our usable points right there, is already 1. It's pretty clearly to see. From there, I knew I have a rise of negative 3 over 2, so my slope is negative 3 over 2. And putting those things together, your equation should have been y equals negative 3 halves x plus 1. And let's just make sure that's the way they wrote on the worksheet. Y equals negative 3 half x plus 1. Looking at 18, again you need the slope and the y-intercept. The y-intercept, again, you see pretty clearly because it's one of our usable points right there. Our y-intercept is negative 3. The slope, starting from here, is a rise of 2 and a run of 3. So the slope is really rise of 2 over 3, 2/3. And putting those things together, the equation you should have had was y equals 2/3 x minus 3. Or again, y equals 2/3 x plus negative 3. Checking the worksheet, that's what it had as well. Y equals 2/3 x minus 3. Okay, now it's time for independent practice. What I'd like you to do is identify the slope and y-intercept for each of these equations. And then you're going to, in part B, match each graph with its equation. So let's call this graph A, this graph B, this graph C, and this graph D. And your job is to match them with its equation. Good luck.